channel. I am here with my co-host, who is fresh out of the hospital, Candy Nelson. And you're going to have to excuse us tonight. I am on the road driving, still working, and I'm going to let Candy do most of the talking tonight, but she's got lots to say. I know we've all been waiting to hear from her. So how are you doing tonight, Candy?
I'm doing better, but still,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Been
you
a
can see,
rough road, huh?
look at the purge stuff I got going on here.
Yeah.
Let's see
It's
if we
been
can.
like that for me. I've been sick all week, really sick actually, and I can't imagine how you must be feeling.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of what Sheila, myself, and so many others have been noticing the skin doing some crazy weird things.
Yeah, you can
But
see where it's all collecting, like down in here.
yeah,
This is where it always gets me, like right along my jawline, my chin.
yeah. I do see that. So what I'm going to do, Candy, I'm going to take myself down and mute my microphone so that there's not so much road noise. I'm just going to let you talk about what's been happening and what the doctors said and as far as your hospital stay went. And I know there's been a lot of people waiting to hear, and I'm very concerned about you. So we're just so glad that you're alive and well and with
I
us.
know. I'm like, oh my god, that was horrid. It's
I
scary.
bet. I'm gonna put you up now and let you explain because I'm dying to hear too. So here we go.
Okay. All right, so basically, I started getting like severe chest pains. Like, I woke up from a nap. I had been sleeping. I woke up. I was like, man, my chest, it just kind of feels funny. And so I grabbed my peppermint oil. I put the peppermint oil up my nose, and I'm like, oh, still didn't feel too good. So I went in and put on some mullein tea, and I was like, oh my god. So I went and found a rescue inhaler, hit that a couple of times, and I was like, man, I just don't feel good. And so my husband was cooking something to eat and for dinner, and he's like, you gonna eat something? I was like, no, I just don't feel like eating. And so then I'm like, okay, wait a minute, something's seriously wrong. We need to call 911. And he's like, I'll get my shoes on. So anyway, we winded up going to the ER, hung my head out the car window all the way there because I couldn't breathe at all. So I get there and they did a chest x-ray and immediately said that I had like a hole in my lung. And they winded up calling it what the diagnosis hold on one second. It was called a pneumothorax. And so the definition of that is commonly called a collapsed lung. It is a condition in which air leaks from a lung and builds up in between the thin layer of tissue that covers the lungs and the anterior wall of the chest cavity. The air gets trapped outside the lung, between the lung and the chest wall. The air takes up space and prevents the lung from fully expanding. The condition sometimes occurs suddenly with no apparent cause. The buildup of the air may be small or large. A small may go away on its own. A large will require treatment and hospitalization. Mine was very large. And it says it may be caused by trauma, injury to the chest wall, surgery, or other procedures, a complication of an underlying lung problem. Sometimes the cause of this condition is not known. Uh, what increases the risk are you're more likely to develop this condition if you have an underlying lung problem, you smoke, you're 20 to 40 years old, male, tall, and underweight, you have a personal or family history of a pneumothorax, you have an eating disorder, anorexia nervosa. The condition can also happen quickly, even in people with no history of lung problems. So, anyway, so that's what they said it was. And so, anyway, they did the surgery right there in the ER. And then they took me to a room, and I was on oxygen, and they stuck a tube in there to so that the air could, I guess, the air could drain out so that my lung could fill the way it was supposed to. It was just crazy, but anyway, so thank goodness, I'm still having some shortness of breath, but Right? He says, Argo says that happened to a friend of mine, a hole in the lung for no real reason. Yeah. So anyway, they didn't really give me a straight answer either. It's just like, okay, well, it could have been this and it could have been that. Oh, and then the
That's a rare
interesting
thing
thing.
to happen.
Well, and then the interesting thing, I don't know if I even told you about this or not, but while she's trying to put the tube in there, right? I mean, her whole body is like shaking and she's straining and straining and straining. And so she finally gets the tube in there. And then afterwards, she's stitching me up. And, her body was all tensed up and everything. And she said to me, she's like, oh, she said, your skin is so tough. She said, I couldn't even hardly get the tube in there. She said, it was
So
bending
welcome to
while I
my
was trying
world.
to, yeah, she's like, it was bending while I was trying to put it in you. And she said, and then when I was trying to stitch you up, she said, your skin is like leather. She said, I couldn't even hardly get the needle to go through your skin. And I was like, so you ever heard of biofilm?
Exactly, exactly. There's so much that goes with this. And I bet they were all ears, weren't they?
Well, like I said, I was like goofing up and laughing and, like growling and being demonic, at the guy that was had his hand there for me to squeeze his hand because she said she said this is the most painful surgery we do in the ER, and they didn't
Oh, now they tell
sedate
you.
me or anything. They just gave me a shot there to deaden the surface part, and I guess when they cut the hole, that was about it. But then after that, it was like, oh, there was no anesthesia either. It was just game on. Like, oh my God.
You are one tough cookie, let me tell you. That's insanity.
Yeah, but it was kind of funny because I mean, the guy I was squeezing his hand. I looked at him and I was like, "I'm gonna eat your face." And then my husband, right? He's in the hallway. Afterwards, my husband walks in the room and it's like, I mean, all the color just left his face because he knew that it's like, man, I'm like, I am one tough cookie. So if I'm hurting or I'm in pain, he's like, he felt it. He walked in, his whole face was like, I mean, the color just left his body, and he's just like in shock that,
I can see George now. He's probably like, oh crap. She's sick, she's hurting. Don't mess with her.
yeah, it's like, what a sweetie though. He's been, oh my God, so so kind and so, I mean, through the whole thing. And you know of course he's like, well, I hope you can stop smoking after this. And he said, I know you've been trying to for a while anyway. And I'm like, yeah. So I checked with my doctor a couple of days ago about medical marijuana, and I was like, look, you just don't stop and put it down totally after over 45 years of smoking. It
Not
just, this ain't that kind of movie, doc.
exactly. It's not that kind of talk.
So anyway, so I told him, that's a bit expensive for me. I was like, besides that, I got friends, if I need that. And so I told him I had
In
been
low
smoking.
places, like the song
Yeah,
goes, I got friends.
I told him I've been smoking the Mullen tea. And he looks at me, he's like, you've been smoking the Mullen tea? I was like, yeah, it's supposed to actually help heal your lungs. He's like, well, that's interesting. And then he had an intern in there with him too at the time. So she's just
You're
looking at
both
me
very
like, oh God, it was a blast. I had so much fun in that hospital after my initial encounter with the stupid ICU nurse. But then after that, oh my God, I had so much fun, and those nurses and all the patient care techs and the doctors and all of them. And I actually got to talk to probably 4 or 5 of them about Morgellons while I was there. And one of them, I don't know if I mentioned this in other podcasts or if we even talked about it at all, but I was talking to this one respiratory therapist, and she she's like, she's like, this is interesting. She's like, I want to hear more. So she left. She's gone in maybe like 10 minutes, and then she comes back. She said, actually, she said, years ago, I used to have nightmares about pulling fibers out of my own mouth. She said, I had like
That's
nightmares
bizarre.
all
That
the
is so
time.
bizarre.
And I'm like, really? And she said, yeah. She said, I forgot about it. She said, now that you're talking about this, she said, I remembered. I used to have that nightmare like night after night after night. I'm like, well, were you a child? She's like, no, it was right after I started going to college. And I said, see,
That's strange. So that you have to wonder why on earth, of all things in the world, for someone to have dreams about,
yeah.
why that? Like,
Because
that's just crazy.
and I did tell her, I said, well, you're a respiratory therapist. I said, I showed her the video with the fibers coming out of my leg and all. I said, even though I don't have those fibers anymore like that, I still have them internally, and we gag on them. And when we eat food and the food, it rubs on the fibers, we choke and we gag on them. You're a respiratory therapist. You need to understand this and know this, that yes, it's in our lungs, it's in our chest,
Right.
it's in our
That's true.
esophagus, you know? And she's like, I just forgot all about that until you said something about it. She's like, and I was like,
I
and I
just think
told her,
it's bizarre that
I told her about our podcast too. I told her about our podcast on Friday nights too. So
awesome. Kids is making progress with the medical humans out there. So that's amazing. Awesome.
yeah, like I said, I probably talked to 4 or 5 of them on different levels. One of them I showed him all the before and after pictures of my face. I didn't really go into the fibers or anything, but talked about GMOs and then oh my God, this was the thing that got me. It's like I'm in the ER and they come in and they had this needle and they're like, we need to give you this shot into your stomach. I said, for what? And they're like, to keep you from getting blood clots. It's a heparin shot. I was like, what do you mean keep me from getting blood clots? I don't want that.
Yeah, I had to have that. I was not
Yeah, they're like, well, it's a blood thinner, and because you're not mobile, we need to give this to you. I'm like, no, you're not giving me that. I'm not taking that shot. So they get me to the ICU. Here they come back with that damn needle again. I was like, no, I'm not taking that. Well, you need to take.
no.
And they're like, you could get a blood clot. I was like, well, I'm in the hospital. If I get a blood clot, then we'll handle it. Then,
We're in the right place for it. I love it.
So anyway, every time I turn around, they were coming in with that shot. And so they're like, well, but it's because you're not mobile. I was like, get me that walker. Pass me that walker. I will be. I am not taking that.
Wow.
And
Wow, because they were really forceful with that shot with me as well. This has been about 5 years ago. But they
yeah.
were like adamant that I was going to have that shot, which and I did take that shot. But I'll tell you what, that's when I got Morgellons. Actually, I say 5 years ago. This was right before I got Morgellons. So it would have been 8 years ago. And they were adamant that I have it. And then I got home from the hospital and that same year, Morgellons kind of festered into my infrastructure and made itself very well known and present.
Well, yeah. And that they kept trying to force that on me. And I'm like, no. I said, get me that walker over there. Oh, you can't do that. You just had this surgery and all, and you're not ready for that. I was like, get me that walker. And my doctor came in and I told him, I said, look, you know me. You
That
know
makes
me.
you wonder why. I mean, now that you're saying that as well, makes you wonder really why they're so forceful about it.
And I told him, I said, first of all, I said, what lung collapse or not, I'm not good with being laid up in no bed and not being able to move. I need to be moving. I need to be moving. And, I'm not taking that shot. So therefore, you need to get me that walker. And so next thing you know, he tells the nurse she can walk 3 times a day. I was up, boy, like within 2 days, I was up walking the halls. 3 days.
Yeah, that's exactly. Thank God that you did though, because like I said, they forced that on me, and I said no. They told me I had no choice. It was do or die, basically. So it really does make you kind of wonder what's going on.
Well,
But
and,
I
and
apologize. I'm in traffic right now, and it's pretty bad.
And then again, I'm thinking to myself, okay, first of all, you don't even know for sure that you're going to get a blood clot.
Exactly.
And so why wouldn't you want a person up walking around to prevent it, prevent the situation rather than putting something in their body that they might not even have a need to take because they might not even get a blood clot in
They're
the first
reading
place.
the screen and they're going by the only thing they've been given to know, and not by their own by any means. That's just, it's so obvious. Anyone that's in the doctor these days, they literally plug the diagnostics into the screen. Like, here's the symptom, and then they get back what the diagnostics are. It's pathetic because these doctors in this day and age are not thinking for themselves at all on any level. So pretty pathetic.
Well, like I said,
In traffic for a long time. There must be a wreck or something, guys.
I mean, I just don't get. It's like, okay, well, we're going to give you this shot just in case. Well, what if that never happens? Now you put something in my body that I just don't even need.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Like I said, I came down with Morgellons. I've been living on the 5 year. I've had my 5 years for, I'm saying that, over 5 years. But I mean, years ago, that's what happened. And then, of course, I'm an avid artifact hunter. There were so many factors that came into play, but I could never figure out why they were so forceful with that, having to have that blood thinner, that shot, but so I wouldn't clot or whatnot. So there's something to that. That's really strange.
Well, and right after I got off the phone with you a while ago, my phone rang, and I didn't recognize the number, so I answered it, and it was my insurance provider again. And get this, we need to set up a visit to your home because we have these services that we're going to offer you. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Oh, but it's a service that we provide. No, thank you. Why in the hell do they just got to come in my home for what?
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's crazy you said that, because when I got home, the day I was getting home from the hospital, of course I'm driving myself home because I have nobody, but I have child services at my door saying, we need to schedule a visit with you. And I'm like, for what? So a whole scenario, but it does make you freaking wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, and they're like, it had nothing to do with my recent hospital visit. This was what they call the in-home visit, so that they can tell you about the services. Well, you can tell me that over the damn phone. Why you got to come in my
That
house?
has nothing to do with my hospital visit either. That's what was weird to me. I mean,
Yeah, you want to evaluate me or you want to evaluate my home? My home is not your business. Oh, I get so mad. And then, I was so mad at them, and they hung up the phone. No sooner than I hung up the phone on them, it rang again, and I answered it again. I was like, assholes. And my husband was like, what?
straight assholes. Like, you
I
know,
was like, and George was like, what did I do? I'm like, it wasn't you. Sorry.
I'll
Oh
tell
my
you though, there's something weird in the medical system in general. But I mean, first of all, weird goes with like, well, why the heck is there a serpent? As the symbolism there. You
God.
know, that is the medical symbolism, a serpent, right? Um, I never ceases to amaze me that all the hidden symbolisms that I'm finding in life, throughout life, and all the things that are hidden and planted in purposely, and that also being one of them. And that first do no harm thing, that's a joke. It's like a big joke these days that first do no harm. It seems like harm is all they've done these days. So I'm just glad though, Candy, that they did not do any harm to you this morning.
Hey,
So
well, like I said, I'm like, no, I'm like on it. I'm like, no, I am not taking that shot. And oh my God. And imagine if I hadn't asked and just let them do whatever they wanted to do.
yeah,
And then, I told them, I was like, look at my skin. You think for one damn minute I need a blood thinner, okay, when obviously my skin's already thin enough as it is.
right.
What you trying to do? Make me bleed to death?
I mean,
Oh,
you have to wonder what this is for any of this. But I have to ask, the purpose. Why did you get a hole in your lung? They couldn't seemingly give you an answer.
yeah.
No reason, no rhyme or reason.
Oh, and
And
they
the
said it
author
could.
said that at the beginning. Like, how does that even happen?
Yeah, it could have been caused by my underlying autoimmune conditions, and it could have been this, it could have been that, could have been the
And
other,
shoulda,
whatever.
woulda, coulda, right? But the fact that first person online tonight said the same thing, that, so you're not like that really makes you wonder. I mean, is there something more to this, or what are they not telling us? Or what are they giving to us? And then, I don't know. I just know that it just doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense anymore.
Nope, it does not.
I'm gonna let you talk here for a second. There's a crack up ahead, so I'm gonna cut it right now. So, but I was wondering if you could tell them a little bit about like the nurse that you were. I know you told them about like what she said and how she had that dream, but did you talk to any other doctors or any other people that came in about Morgellons at all? I'm just curious.
Well, I talked to her, and then one of the nurses that was in there, I was talking to her about it. I asked her if she had ever heard of Morgellons, and she said yes. And I really liked her. She was this black nurse, but she said yes, she had heard of it. And I said, oh, I said, so that's what I'm dealing with. And I said, and it's not a mental issue. And so I showed her the video with the fibers coming out of my leg, and she's like, oh my God. And this was funny because, like I said, I had her a couple nights, and then so the next night she comes in and her eye is all swollen, right? And she's got a bandage over her eye. And so I'm like, well, what did you do to your eye? She's like, I don't know. I just woke up and it was swollen like this. And I was like, well,
Welcome to the
I was like,
medical
let
world.
me tell you what happened to my eye. And I told her about, my eye swelling up like that, and me going to the eye doctor and him pulling the fibers out of my eyeball. And
Yeah,
she's like,
if
oh,
you and eye doctor did that and pulled the fibers from your eye, right? But did they ever say anything about that? That's the other question.
he just called it like hair like stuff. But I knew when he
We
knew.
all have hair-like stuff that just floats into our eyes, and we don't have any idea how we got it.
Embedded.
So
But
crazy.
so I told her, I said, well, I had to use a tea bag to get the swelling to go down on mine because the hot and cold compresses didn't work. I said, but the tea bag took the swelling down. I said, and so after that, I told her who my eye doctor was. I said, if you want help, with the issue, you go see this eye doctor and he will help you if you got stuff in your eye. He will actually help you pull it out. She's like, oh, and she's kind of freaked out because I'd already talked to
I
her about
bet
the
she did.
ones,
She was like probably thinking, okay, I'm not coming back into this room anymore. Just thinking maybe she picked it up or
I
something.
didn't see her. I didn't see her again after that, but they worked funky shifts, like I would see one for a day or two, and then I didn't see them again, and a
Yeah,
new
I
crew would
never
come
had
in, and
the same one for very long either. I had one nurse though that was so like you were talking about the back bedside mannerisms. She was
yeah,
so horrible, and I swear I think she's the reason I had child services come, when I got out, and I still to this day. Because if anyone knows me, the one thing I brag about is I am a damn good mother. Such a good mother. Like my kids are my life first every time, and yeah, they walk over me sometimes even. So that doesn't mean anything other than I am a single parent doing my damn best. But she had horrible bedside manner. Makes you wonder. So I kind of wonder. You want to tell them about that nurse that was like that with you?
oh, so that was in the ICU. So after I got out of the emergency room, they put me in
I
ICU,
see.
and so what the issue was I guess I'm guessing at this point because I'm thinking I might have got into the room about midnight or so. And then I hadn't had any dinner that night. And so they had oxygen tubes in my nose. And I asked them for a snack or something because I had not had any dinner. And they gave me some graham crackers and some milk. And I had that. And they gave me something for pain. And then I kind of dozed off and woke up a couple hours later. And the controller on the side of the bed that adjusts the head and the feet, it it was like a portable thing. It came off and on, but it wasn't working. And so when they adjusted the bed, the feet were down and the head was up, but I had slipped down. Being small, I had slipped down, so I was in the crook, where the
It was awful.
and I was stuck in there.
And your lungs are the issue, so you're not breathing well.
Yeah, and I'm trying to I couldn't, I didn't have the strength to pull myself up out of that hole, and so I was trying to adjust the bed so that I could, get situated where I could be more comfortable, and the controller didn't work. And so I told her, I said, hey, can you go on one of the other beds and take that controller and interchange it with this one, because I physically, I'm stuck here and I can't move. And she's like, okay. She's like, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Well, in the meantime, they gave me some more pain meds. I dozed back off while I'm still down there in the crook. So a couple hours later, I wake up, and I'm like, I'm stuck down there, and it's causing me much more pain, a whole lot more pain, because I was in an awkward position and I couldn't get up. And she's like, well, if you need to be adjusted, we can help you. I'm like, that's not the point. I need to be able to do it when I need to be able to do it. Because, I'm on pain meds because I was in and out. I wake up and it's like there's nobody there. I can't keep hitting the button every time I want to. Yeah.
At an awkward, angle.
So my doctor comes in, my primary doctor, and he comes in at 6:00. And I told him 6:00 in the morning, I said, look, this needs to be fixed. This is not good. I'm in pain. It's causing me more pain. Please have them fix this. He's like, okay. He's like, I'll get right on that. So he told them, like I said, that's like 6:00 in the morning. And so at like 9:30, I wake up from the pain meds again, and the thing's still not fixed. And I'm telling the girl, I'm like, this is causing me more pain. Well, I got the oxygen tubes in my nose. I'm trying to get where I can move my body, and it was like I was in so much pain. I was crying, and the oxygen tube was getting snot in it. And I'm trying to adjust my body. I hadn't had any breakfast. Like I said, this is like 9:30, and they serve breakfast at 8. I'm hungry, and I'm like, and so anyway, I told her, I'm like, can you please have somebody look at this controller? I can't keep doing this, She's like, ma'am, I'm working on it. And, can I get some breakfast? It's like 9:30. So she goes and she gets some food for me. She comes back and then she pushes the tray and it doesn't go over my bed. It kind of got jammed at the bottom of the bed or something. And so she couldn't push it up to me where it needed to be. Plus the fact that I'm physically on my elbows trying to hold my body weight up. When I got the tube in me, I just had this damn surgery a few hours before. The tray is like 1.5 feet away from me. And I'm trying to hold my body up, reach the food, and the snot's all in the damn oxygen tube. So I pull off the oxygen tube because I'm like, this is ridiculous, I was mad at it. So this lady pulls back the curtain and she looks because I had pulled the tube out. And she must have known I was pissed. She closed the curtain back. A few minutes later, she opens the curtain again. I was like, what? And she's like, you have to keep that tube in your nose. I said, I'm trying to eat. I'm in pain. Nobody's listening to me. Somebody needs to do something about this bed. So then the nurse comes in, the one that I had been dealing with. She picks up the damn oxygen tube and was going to physically put it in my nose.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, I just kind of slapped it out of her hand. She grabbed it again. I'm like, no, this is causing me more pain. I'm in horrible pain. And that thing is full of snot and I can't reach my food, and I'm dropping food in my bed while I'm shaking and I'm trying to hold my body up. And I'm like, and I'm like, somebody needs to do something about this. And she's like, ma'am. Yeah. She's like, ma'am. She's like, you're not the only patient here. She said, there are patients in here that are in worse shape than you are. And I was like, okay, first of all,
because you don't, to live, okay?
You don't need to say another damn word to me ever, unless it's about your job. You don't say another word to me. Well, I have to speak to you. It's my job. I said, you know what? You speak to me about your job.
Good for
You
you.
don't talk down to me, okay? And you certainly don't. I mean, I was like, not another fucking word. I did. I told her, I was like, not a word.
Good for
And
you, because that is tacky and that is not okay. And whether there's other patients or not, their job is to do it correctly. And when someone's down in a bed, unable to move, breathe, I mean, obviously, you're in pretty bad shape if you are, if you have a lung and you can't breathe and you're slumped down in the bed where you can't, you know, adjust it to where you can breathe and collect the oxygen as needed.
yeah,
So
and I'm trying to hold myself up on my elbows, and trying to eat on one elbow. I mean, and I'm right-handed, so
for
it's done
goodness
on my right
sake,
side.
they should be ashamed of themselves. I would write a review. I would make sure they know about it. Not that it does any good because it's all political and the same agenda at the end of the day. But if it makes you feel better, I would do it. It'd make me feel better.
Well, I don't know. I said my piece, and then let's see what happened after that. Oh, and so then I ate the best I could, what I could. Dozed back off again. I'm in horrible pain. I'm laying there. Well, a few hours later, next thing you know, somebody comes in, and she's like, I'm the physical therapist, and she's like, we're here, and they're still trying to do the heparin shot, and I was like, look, the problem is, my body. This is causing me more pain. I need somebody to check into this and find out why I cannot physically move myself in this bed. And by this time, it was like 2:45 in the afternoon, and I had been there like that hours, like from midnight the night before. And
Such bull crap.
so she takes it off the side, she taps it a few times. She starts pushing the button and it's working.
Literally, like, had they even attempted
No,
it,
not at
I
all. Nobody even touched
they
that
would have
controller.
been hell of a fix. Shame on
And I
you.
was like, oh, thank you, God. And so then I'm like, okay, it's 2:45. I didn't slept with because I was on pain meds, slept through lunch. I'm like, I didn't even get any lunch. So I asked her, I was like, this same nurse, I was like, can I please get some food? I didn't get any lunch. She's like, well, you're not going to be here much longer anyway. You're moving to another floor. I'm like, that don't
Wow.
feed me now, you know?
Wow, that's awful.
So I never got any food from her.
That's
And
awful.
there was a couple times I asked for pain meds and she kept putting me off on that. And I'm like, oh my God. So by the time they got there to move me to the they said, you're going to the seventh floor. I said, oh, I asked them, I said, well, what floor is the middle floor? I said, is that the A floor? And they were like, no, that's the first floor. I was like, oh, okay, because I figured I was moving up.
Funny crap right there.
Yeah, so I was still joking and cutting up and stuff. And so when they came to pick me up, and they were during the transition the from the ER to my new, they were talking together, and I was like, and can y'all please get me some lunch? I said, they have not fed me. They didn't feed you? I'm like, no, right in front of her.
That is
I was like, no,
awful.
I never got any lunch. I was
That is
so happy to get out of there. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's so not cool. I'm glad that you handled everything the way you did, though. And I love the humor that you continue to have, and you had a lot of spirit and drive still, and that's what I hope with all of us, all people out here that have not even just for going on, just whatever it is in your life that's ailing you or making you ill. Don't forget your spirit. Don't lose your spirit, your drive out of it, because it's
Oh,
important. And I mean, look, Candy can do it. You guys can do it. I know you
oh,
can.
and I really, I mean, I just had, after I left that one place with that one bad nurse, after that, oh my God, everybody was so amazing and so pleasurable. And I think I told you there was like a 94-year-old woman next to me. And, I mean,
That's
I was,
awesome.
I
Yeah,
was the youngest, I was the youngest person on the whole floor. And so all of them are like, you know,
Candy's like, yep, you're welcome.
oh my God. And so this one lady, she had had a stroke or something, and she is diabetic, and they were trying to get her to eat, and she was in the room with me, and they're like, I swear, I just lay there and cried because I was listening to the way they were working with her and talking to her and all, and trying to get her to eat, and they were just so kind and so gentle, and I just laid there listening, and and they're just telling her, "Oh, you did such a good job. You ate it all," and I just tears just rolling down my eyes, and I'm like, God, man, they were the kindest. I'm getting teary eyed now. God, just
You were so bless their heart, and then they're to you. They're like, "Shut up, no food for you," and then they're being so kind to her.
yeah, but that was the other floor. But and then
That's still
when I,
a win.
well, and when I got up walking around, now listen, my nurses and my patient care techs, I mean, I don't care what it was, and I swear to you, I mean, I was asking for ice chips every 30 minutes. And they were just like so accommodating with everything. So when I start walking around, I get to the other end of the hallway, and there's this old guy, and he's in a wheelchair. He's only got one leg. So he wheels to the door, and he sticks his head around the door, and he asks his nurse, he's like, "Can I please get a cup of coffee?" And the nurse is like, "No, you can't." And he's like, "Please." He's like, I just need a cup of coffee." And I'm like, I'm looking because I know the guy was drinking coffee before. And so I'm like, I'm looking. I'm like, what happened to the patient? I mean, the customer's always right. And the old guy is like, yeah. He's like, what happened to the customer's always right? And he's like, well, you're not getting no coffee. And I was sitting there thinking, I told him, I said, that is not the way I'm being treated on the other end. I said, everything I've asked for, they've given me and been over backwards. So I go around to the other end of the hallway and get back down to my end, right? And I told one of the nurses, I was like, that poor guy was down there begging for a cup of coffee. And they told him no. And she said, what? She's like, let me go check his chart. She went down there on the other end. It wasn't even her department. Checked his chart, got him a damn cup of coffee and took it to him. She's like, I took it to him. I'm like, so I was walking later. He's like, yeah, he's like, thank you for defending me.
That is awesome. I'm glad that you did too, because he would still be sitting there. And when you like your coffee, or what you're used to having in routine, right?
That's important. I said, it's not easy. It's not easy for us being up here. And all he asked for was a damn cup of coffee, And the guy was a jerk.
That's awful. That is awful. But I mean, thank God you were there, because look, you got his coffee. And
yeah, exactly.
It's probably like the best thing. Let's put it this way: the best thing, like when I was in the hospital, I asked for a soda. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted a Coke. I just wanted a Coke. And I mean, I couldn't. But the day I got one, I was so in heaven. I was like, little things that we don't even realize we sometimes take for granted, or we're used to having when your freedoms are taken away, no matter what you are. It's important to have some sort of normality. So.
Shoot, there was plenty of times. I mean, when I would ring my bell, and usually they'll come on the intercom and ask you what you want. Boy, I even got my finger off the damn buzzer. They're coming in the door. What's your name, Miss Nelson?
That's awesome. Well, they're like, don't mess with that lady. She's gonna tell you. So,
no, I didn't have that issue on that after I left that one nurse, and oh my God, it was so, like I said, it was so amazing. They were so kind and so.
Glad. It was the one.
And then my doctor, when I was telling him about the one woman, she was having a hard time next door, that one of the elderly ladies, because I had multiple roommates over the 11 days I was there. And, but I couldn't sleep because she was making so much noise, moaning and groaning. And so one of the nurses is like, I think we got some earplugs. You want some earplugs? I was like, that'd be great. So she gives me some earplugs, and I get those in my ear, and I was able to sleep. So my doctor comes in the next morning. He's like, what's the earplugs for? I was like, can't sleep, He's like, you want me to get you another room? I'm like, no, it's fine. I just need the earplugs. I sleep when I sleep. because I was only sleeping a couple hours at a time because I had conditioned myself when somebody walked in the room, whether it was they're coming in to take my they take your blood pressure and your
all your vitals.
yeah, take your vitals, and then they would leave. Then hour or two later, here we got to do a chest X-ray. Oh my God, I had so many chest X-rays, it was insane. And
Oh,
so then they come in and do that. And then they would leave, and then they come in. It's like, oh well, we're here to give you your pain meds. I'm like, okay, I'll wake up for that. And then nose back off. Here's your lunch. I'm like, okay, wake up for that. I was like,
yeah, I remember that. Never getting any rest
oh
whatsoever.
yeah.
Insane.
Or they would be next door at my roommate's area. A bunch of them would be over there trying to get her to cooperate and do stuff, and I'm in a dead sleep, and I'm waking up, and I'm like, okay,
Yep,
I
no
need
rest for
coffee.
the weary. No rest for the weary.
Yeah, yeah. So, but like I say, I was in there 11 days, and
Do hair for free. Everyone, once they find out that you have, that you've been doing hair for like years, but wants their hair done for free, which I don't mind, but I got to do that now. And I know that this is short time. Hold on, let me put myself up here with you. So I know this is short tonight, and I apologize. It's been hectic, I think, for everyone, but I'm just so glad that we got to hear from you and everything that you've gone through. I commend you. You're a brave soul. A brave soul. You have been through a lot. I have a cat meowing at me somewhere.
and my husband has been so amazing through this whole thing, and
George, good to you. I love it.
I mean, he's just been so kind and just cooking and cleaning and then they did Thanksgiving dinner this past Sunday. Was it Sunday? Last Sunday.
He's been cooking too?
Yeah, he's been cooking and he took a few days off afterwards. So
What a man.
yeah.
That's awesome. I have a cat that I thought I locked somewhere. I can hear him meowing at me, but I don't know. Maybe I'll find it in a few months. No, I'm just kidding. That's not funny. So, that's really weird. Anyways, I am home finally. I did a lot of miles in my car today. Actually. But I've been trying to work and be sick at the same time has been so awful. It's so hard.
Sorry.
I thought it was weird that I'm even getting sick. When it's Morgellons, typically you don't get the flus and the colds and whatnot, right? We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
And, so many of us ended up getting sick and having these colds and whatnot. And I mean, I still have it. I woke up this morning and I just hardly move. I have to force myself up, knowing that got to pay the bills. got to feed the kid, feed myself occasionally. But have you noticed that? Is what? Oh, sorry.
Well, I mean, I told you
me so
since like the 1st of October, the first thing that happened to me was I had that eye issue that went crazy cuckoo. And then got over that, and then my legs broke out from my kneecaps down. I haven't been broke out in a couple of years.
It's been weird, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah, I got that better. Then got the damn flu. Had that for a few weeks, and then got over that, and then got a collapsed lung, and
I know. It's like, what's going on?
And now I'm getting over that, and now my face is all funky-fied, which I haven't had.
Another. And
yeah, my face was so clear and pretty.
She's cat off. It's been horrible.
Yeah, my face was so clear and pretty, but look at this mess. See? Like,
you look beautiful. To me, you always look beautiful. But yeah, that's. I mean, I think everyone saw that video I posted when you were in the hospital of my neck with all that crap with the glue mask or whatever I did. It's nuts. But that's kind of what I've been dealing with, nonstop. Like nonstop. My mouth is killing me right now. I don't know what's going on. Well, I do know what's going on. It's called Morgellons. That sucks. You guys know, any of you out there that have it, it sucks bad. So I feel like some days I just can't even get the energy or gumption to get out of bed anymore sometimes. It's awful. But I'm just thrilled and happy and thankful and grateful and blessed to have you still here with us, and can't imagine not being able to talk to you and have these podcasts. And so thank you, Lord, and praise Jesus.
Yeah, I was like in the hallway. It's a great. I'm in the hospital, going down the
Oh
hallway to
gosh.
walk. It's a great day to be alive. So
Amen.
close my eyes.
Amen. Amen. It is a great day to be alive.
They're like, you're crazy.
Everything, right? I don't know.
They're like, you're
We
crazy.
have more appreciation than most. Oh, I'm just glad you're here with us. And we are all very to have you here with us. Um, with that said, though, I'm going to have to get off. I've got to. First of all, I'm about to pee my pants. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in the bathroom today, so I gotta go. Do that and the hair thing, and then pray weekend. So go do that all weekend and work. So in between, but so glad to hear from you, and I'm glad to let everyone else know because I'm wondering, and the world out there has been wondering. So yeah, and you got a smile on your face. That's the best part. I love it. Love
I'll
it.
be alive. I thought I was dying.
I know, and you still kept a happy spirit the whole time. Bless you.
Yeah.
That's not easy. Not easy
Yeah.
to do at all. So, anything else you want to add before it's my fault this time? I feel like I'm always spreading, and I don't even remember the last time I took a moment at all for myself. Pretty much ever in the last 7 years. Oh,
Uh,
maybe more. But it's not about me. It never was about me. We learn that as we go and we grow. We just hold on for the ride and we get the very best foot forward and keep a smile on our face because nobody else is going to put it there. That's what I learned. Right? Got to
yeah.
be around all the time. That one, I don't mind it. But anything that you can think of that didn't touch on or
No.
no.
So,
Oh, keep that smile. I love it. Love talking to you. Love that you're feeling better. Get lots of rest though, and no relapses or anything. Don't want that. So,
all right. Good night. I love you. I hope you feel
guys,
better.
and thank you so much for both of us, and especially all of you. There was something after Candy that was just constantly asking and encouraging. So many people that love you. I just want you to know that.
Oh, thank you.
So, we are blessed. All of us are blessed, but we love you, Candy. Can't live without you. So she's too stubborn to go anywhere anyway, guys. Let me tell you, I know her.
I know. It's like, oh, I ain't dead yet.
Ain't dead yet. It ain't gonna go anywhere. So, all right. Much love, blessings, and y'all have a wonderful weekend. Good
And good
night.
night, everybody.